I want to talk about your story really quick, and just how it relates to how women's basketball can be set up better for women's basketball players, right?
Yeah.
You drafted out of UNC 2019, go to Indiana, second year play in New York. Made the team the third year in New York, and you said, no, I'm done. Why?
I think my chances were pretty high of being a starter again for New York that season, but it's hard being an athlete.
Yeah.
I think you hear about the stuff on the news or Twitter, flying charter, wanting improvements in locker rooms and just different things that can be better for the safety of the players as well. I think that it was I don't know if it was burnout, because it's pretty hard having to play 4 hard months in the WNBA, then go play overseas in Russia, Israel.
That's wild.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was just time for me to just walk away. It just wasn't for me anymore.
Now, Paris Kea joining us here in studio. Paris, it's I have pro aspirations, but to walk away from it, how difficult was it for you to actually come to that decision?
Oh man, it was so difficult. You worked so hard to get to that level. Yeah, at least 25 years, right? Basketball kind of became my identity, right? It's something that I put a lot of work into, a lot of commitment and dedication. It was really hard. I worked with my therapist. I know the last day when I finally came to the decision, like my body just kind of shut down mentally, and physically. Like my body was kind of telling me, this isn't what you want to do. I remember shooting in the gym the night before I decided to make my decision, and I was it was just a different feeling.
Yeah.
It was like I usually would go and it'd be like a stress relief to be on the court, especially an empty gym. There's nothing like an empty gym, right? And I just felt different. And I was like, this might be my time to just hang up the shoes.
So Paris Kea is joining us live. UNC great basketball player if you've ever seen her play. You just said you were working with your therapist with that. So you had somebody to talk through the situation. How important was that for you to have that?
Oh, yeah, it's very important. I think what everyone on the outside sees is the hard work we put into, whether, it's like individual trainings, one-on-one on the court. But the big piece is that mental piece, having to be away from family is really hard and difficult, especially if you go overseas to play. And we only have 12 teams in the league.
Yeah.
And then we're scattered about. I think the closest here, and this is home for me, is Atlanta maybe, or the Mystics.
Washington,
so, yeah.
Well, that's the next thing I was going to ask you about. We're seeing a lot of great basketball players not have a home here, and you already talked about we've heard all about what the pay is and that type of thing, which is why a lot of folks have to go overseas to supplement. But when you already don't have enough roster spots here, Alyssa Kanane, great at NC State.
Oh, yeah.
Not in the WNBA. Bria Bill from South Carolina, I think was just drafted to the Minnesota Lynx. She didn't make the roster.
Yeah.
She was amazing at South Carolina.
Yeah.
What needs to be done to keep players like you in the game and keep more players like here in the safety of the United States of America? Because we've seen what's happened to people like Brittany Griner.
That's a big question. It's a great question. It's a loaded question, right? It's kind of hard to really pinpoint what we can really do because our game is growing. We're only about 10 years old, so we're not super old. I think the W was created the year I was born. Wait, no. 25 years old. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I take it back. So I think the year I was born, 96, was when the W was even created. Yeah. So it's not very long, right? And so we have to understand that this league is growing. We can do better with marketing, but we just signed a few more streamings. So, we're on ESPN more, we're on ABC, TNT, and these stations more. And so, it's growing, and we all can complain about the pay, right? We can complain about the travel. There's so many things that we can complain about, but, it's still growing.
So Paris Kea joining us here in studio, former WNBA player, former UNC basketball standout. What was it like to actually go travel to these other countries and compete and live over there? I mean, it's not easy to be just go to a new city here in the U.S., but to go to a completely foreign country. Take us through some of those experiences.
Right after the WNBA season was over, it was like no break.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we can talk about the hard things, right? You know, having to deal with the language barrier in Russia. You know, it's really, really cold there, having to deal with that adjustment, right? But it was amazing. I played for a Euro Cup team, so I got to travel, you know, all over Europe. I've been to Greece, Switzerland, Turkey. I've been so many different places and met so many amazing people. So, you know, we can't miss out on that beautiful piece of being able to play overseas.
Absolutely.
So I've seen some amazing places. And I mean, I technically get to travel for free, right? It's a free trip. You know, you're playing hard, and you know, you're playing basketball as well, so you can't forget about that. But there's a lot of glory in being able to have that opportunity to play overseas, for sure.
Well, what's not so glorious about that travel, though?
That's a tough question. I mean, you're away from family. That's probably the biggest thing, and it also depends on which country you go to. You know, if they speak English, that makes it 10 times easier. I know in Russia I had a translator. She happened to be one of my teammates. We're best friends now. So that made it 10 times easier to order food. Because if they didn't have a menu with pictures on it, I probably don't know what I would have gotten. Yeah, so probably the biggest thing is just being away from family. I think that's the hardest part. Yeah.
You are such an amazing. I don't want to say word. I don't want to speak in past tense because you are still in your 20s. But like, you know, you are such an amazing player, and I just remember seeing you just absolutely kill on the court. You know, in college. If the WNBA had more roster spots available, was able to pay players a little bit more, to where you didn't have to go overseas, are you still playing right now? Are you suiting up? Maybe tonight and playing on ESPN tonight?
Oh man, that's a big possibility. That's a really big possibility.
See, we gotta talk to the league, man. We gotta talk to the league, man, because they're losing out on great players. You know.
I agree. I mean, it's a big possibility. I do know my purpose in life, and I want to be a sports psychologist one day, and you know. I decided I wanted to walk away from ball to focus on that. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I tell people to be you. Follow your dreams. You know, whatever you aspire to be, do that. And that's what I did.
Ever any thoughts of going back?
At the moment, no.
Huh, that's fair. I mean, it can linger there. Like, well, maybe I'll leave that door open. Like, in case, maybe like a couple years if things get better.
I always want to step back in the ring. Yeah. I always want to step back in the ring. Yeah.
There's that.
That's something like, so, I mean, I feel him on that question. Like, and Dennis used to play lacrosse. Mm-hmm. So, like, have you ever thought about, like, hey, wait a minute, if PFF, what is it called?
The PLL? No, actually, my aspirations were actually to play pro indoor lacrosse.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that was actually something my college coach did. He's like, your style of play was actually better suited for pro indoor. And actually put some feelers out for me with some GMs in the NLL. Nothing ever came to fruition, but I'm like, man, what if I did? You know, like, what if I actually like pursued that?
But you would still do it right now, though, right?
I mean, this age, sure, why not?
We've got these 37-year-old knees, so it's kind of.
Hey, I'd speak for yourself on knees, man. I'm good.
I guess my final question for you. You mentioned want to be a sports psychologist. It feels like that's your eyes light up when you talk about that. It doesn't light up as much talking about basketball, which is very interesting because that's how we know you. But how do you feel like you can help out future Paris Keas of the world by being a sports psychologist?
Oh, for sure. I love this question. In so many ways, right? I think I have the experience. I know what it's like to play overseas. I know what it's like to having to leave school earlier, you know, having to leave UNC, your college, your university early. To go be drafted or to go to training camp and having to fly back just for graduation, and you're just thrown right into it. Yeah. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be a rookie point guard, you know, the floor general, and having to lead grown women. Yeah. You know, I'm the youngest. I was the youngest as a rookie. I know what it's like, and I know what it's like how hard it is to walk away from something you spent your whole life working towards. So just having that experience alone, I think, will allow me to help other Paris Keas or someone like myself that may be dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, and we love the fact that you're from North Carolina. So we just love to celebrate North Carolina. And you made, outside of Vanderbilt, you did great at Vanderbilt, but being back in North Carolina, you did a great job here. So
I appreciate it.
We're definitely proud of you here, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's an honor.